My dad, seeing that I was making peanuts and still couldn't land a girlfriend, took matters into his own hands and arranged for a female CEO to be my wife. She's 5 feet 6 inches, never comes home, and tossed an unlimited black card at me to spend however I wanted. So as not to disturb her date with her first love, I thoughtfully took that black card to an exclusive club and ordered 10 models. Just then, in a luxurious private suite, Chloe Sterling's phone buzzed. She gave the screen a cool glance before lifting her wine glass and taking an unhurried sip. The man sitting beside her, Liam Carter, watched her with a look of love and restraint in his eyes. "Chloe, it's your wedding anniversary today. What is Ethan going to think of me with you being here?" Chloe's voice was icy. "You don't need to worry about what he thinks." As soon as she said it, her phone buzzed again. This time, she picked it up to look. "Your account has been charged $40,000. Your account has been charged $420,000. We've been married for 2 years, and this was the first time I had ever used her card." Chloe's finger traced the screen for a moment, a cold smirk playing on her lips. Liam pursed his lips. "Chloe, maybe you should go home." Before Chloe could answer, another notification popped up. "Your account has been charged $54,000. For the first time in my life, I felt the pure joy of spending without looking at a price tag, of being treated like a king. 20-plus years of suppressed consumer desire erupted uncontrollably, causing Chloe's phone to buzz every few minutes. She didn't look at it again. By the time dinner was over, it had gone off 7 or 8 times. She only glanced at the notifications after settling the bill. Just as she was about to put her phone away, a call came in from her best friend. Olivia's voice was thick with barely suppressed laughter. "Chloe, I just saw your husband at the club, and he ordered 7 models at once. If you don't get over here, you're going to have a whole forest growing on your head." Chloe laughed, a sound devoid of humor. "Ethan Grant at a club? Ordering 7 women? That's impossible." Olivia sent her a photo via iMessage. "I'm telling you, with the way your husband is dressed tonight, I almost didn't recognize him." The man in the photo had sharp, handsome features and was dressed in a tailored black suit that radiated an air of nobility. Olivia continued to tease. "Can you even recognize your own husband?" Chloe felt like she was going blind. There was no way that could be Ethan. Just then, Liam spoke up again. "Chloe, you should probably go home. I can go to the premiere by myself." Chloe put her phone away, unmoved, and went with Liam to the movie. Liam later made a Facebook post to commemorate the premiere of his first film. 20 minutes later, Chloe received a new alert. Ethan Grant had just loaded $1 million onto his account at the Elysian Club. She couldn't sit still a moment longer. Her face a cold mask, she stormed out of the theater. Meanwhile, in a private suite at the club, I was lounging on a plush sofa, sipping a $20,000 bottle of wine. 7 models with incredible figures and impeccably attentive service surrounded me, massaging my shoulders and legs. I couldn't help but close my eyes in blissful comfort. This was heaven on earth. It's crazy to think that just a short while ago, I was some broke guy making a couple grand a month who literally died from pulling an all-nighter reading a web novel. Now, I've woken up as the lovesick, obsessive side character from that very book, who just happens to share my name, Ethan Grant. The original Ethan was born into one of the country's wealthiest families, the world at his fingertips, yet he spent 5 years obsessively chasing the female lead, Chloe Sterling, who only ever had eyes for her first love. In the end, forced by their parents, Chloe had no choice but to enter an arranged marriage with me. After the wedding, she was rarely home, and when she was, she treated the original Ethan like he was invisible. Unable to handle the neglect, the original Ethan started acting out, which ultimately led to his family's ruin and his own miserable end. Talk about fumbling a winning hand. I clicked my tongue and shook my head. Faced with the club manager's sales pitch, I waved my hand magnanimously and used Chloe's card to load another $1 million onto my account. When Chloe burst through the door of the suite, she found me stroking a model's thigh, thoroughly engrossed. "Nice and firm. How long have you been working on these?" The other girls eagerly vied for my attention, showing off their own long legs. "Ethan, I have them too, want to feel?" "Me too, Ethan, look at mine." I felt a nosebleed coming on. The life of the rich and famous was incredible. Just as I was about to reach out again, the door slammed open, followed by a frigid command. "All of you, get out." I hadn't expected Chloe to show up. With my fun interrupted, I gave the waist of the innocent-looking model next to me a reluctant squeeze. "You all head out for now. I'll call for you again when I'm free." Chloe's face was glacial, cold enough to freeze hell over. Soon, the suite was silent, leaving just the two of us. I sat on the sofa, sizing her up. No wonder the original Ethan fell for her at first sight. Her face made all the models who had just left seem plain in comparison. She just stood there, hands on her hips, exuding a charm that was utterly mouth-watering. As I was lost in admiration, I heard Chloe's furious voice. "Using my money to cheat on me? Ethan Grant, do you really think I'm afraid to do something to you?" Chloe studied me with a cold expression. My brows were sharp, my eyes cool, my nose high and straight, my features deep and well-defined. The top button of my shirt was undone, revealing a sexy Adam's apple. She had never seen this handsome version of Ethan before, one who showed no panic at being caught and seemed like a completely different person from the man who, just 2 hours ago, was nothing but a jealous, raving lunatic. I retorted, full of self-righteousness. "What do you mean, your money? We're married. Your money is my money. If you can spend it whining and dining your first love, why can't I spend it on some company for myself?" I wasn't the least bit afraid of her. The novel had repeatedly described Chloe's disgust for the original Ethan, a revulsion so profound that a single touch made her feel sick. In other words, for her to lay a hand on me was basically a form of self-mutilation. Chloe let out a humorless laugh. "Cut the act. You deliberately ran up my card and made this huge scene just to get me to come here, didn't you?" I looked up at her and gently took her hand. "But you did come, didn't you? You left Liam to be here. Does that mean I'm more important to you than he is?" Chloe's face instantly grew colder. "I've told you before, don't push your luck with me. This is the last time. If I ever see you like this again, our marriage is finished." With that, she flung my hand away in disgust and grabbed a napkin to wipe her own, just as the book described, repulsed by any physical contact with me. I almost snickered. Rubbing my chin, I sat back on the sofa and crossed my legs. "You won't even let me touch you. I've been over this marriage for a long time. Slap the divorce papers on the table right now. If I hesitate for even a second, then I, Ethan Grant, am a dog." Chloe froze, glancing at me as a slow, mocking smile spread across her lips. "Divorce? Are you sure? After all the trouble he'd gone through to marry her, and just moments ago acting like he was dying of thirst for her." Hearing the word divorce from his lips was the biggest joke she'd ever heard. My gaze lingered on her face for a moment before traveling down to her long legs. "Either let me touch you, or we get a divorce." Chloe's face instantly darkened. Right in front of me, she called her assistant. "Draft a divorce agreement. Have it delivered to the house first thing tomorrow morning." I picked up my unfinished drink, downed the rest so as not to waste it, set the glass down, and stood up. "Your choice. Don't regret it." Chloe's elegant brows furrowed, and just as she was about to speak, I ignored her completely and walked out. Chloe stood there stunned, growing more certain that I was just drunk, which would explain why I was acting so out of character and daring to bring up divorce. When I got back to the house, I went straight upstairs to my room. Chloe watched the back of Ethan Grant, who hadn't given her a second glance, and only snapped out of it after I disappeared from view. She sat down on the sofa, the image of the man who wanted to divorce her flashing in her mind, and she let out a cold laugh. She couldn't wait to see the look on my face when she slammed the divorce papers down in front of me tomorrow. At that thought, Chloe got up and headed upstairs. She paused at my door when she heard my voice from inside, singing loudly. "Oh, what a beautiful mornin'. Everything's going my way. Oh, what a beautiful day. I've got a wonderful feelin'." Chloe listened to my drunken, caterwauling singing and stopped, intending to shut me up, only to find the door was locked from the inside. The man who usually schemed to get into her bed the moment she came home had actually locked his door against her. My singing continued to pour from the room. "I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky." Seeing that my drunken fit was in full swing, Chloe finally turned and walked away. The room I was in was the master suite. Because Chloe refused to share a bed with the original Ethan, she had moved into a guest room, leaving this massive space all to him. I looked around at the huge, luxurious room, the closet overflowing with designer clothes and priceless watches, and continued to sing happily. I took a long, comfortable soak in the two-person jacuzzi tub and finally sank into the impossibly soft king-sized bed, feeling like I was in a dream that was too good to be true. The next morning, when Chloe came downstairs, she saw the dining table was bare. There was no breakfast waiting for her as usual, nor was I there, watching her with puppy dog eyes. She glanced at my closed bedroom door and couldn't help but smirk, just as she thought. He'd sobered up and was now too scared to face her, hiding like a coward. Remembering my bravado about wanting a divorce last night, she sneered, tossed the divorce agreement onto the coffee table, and left for the office. I'd never slept in such a comfortable bed in my life, so I didn't wake up until well past noon. Seeing that I was still in the opulent bedroom, I finally confirmed that yes, I had definitely transmigrated into the novel. I ran through the plot in my head again. In the book, our marriage lasts less than 3 years, which meant that in less than a year, Chloe would bankrupt my family and kick me out with nothing. The novel only glossed over the business war, so I had no idea what methods she used. But this life of luxury was too good to give up. There was no way I was going to let my family go bankrupt. I got up, dressed, and went downstairs. The moment I saw the divorce agreement on the coffee table, I grabbed a pen and signed my name. To hesitate for even a second would have been disrespectful to the very concept of divorce. Then, I took Chloe's black card out of my pocket, placed it on top of the signed papers, gathered the original Ethan's important belongings, and headed back to the Grant family estate. The moment my mom saw me, she dropped what she was doing and rushed over. "Ethan, why are you home at this hour? Did Chloe kick you out?" I smiled and shook my head. "No, of course not." She clearly didn't believe me. Usually at this time of day, I'd be busy delivering lunch to Chloe, with no time to think of my own family. Mom took my hand. "Well, why didn't you call ahead? I would have had the staff prepare your favorite dishes. And hey, when did you get a haircut? It looks wonderful. This outfit is great too. You look so handsome." My mom's eyes were filled with nothing but me. As she talked, she called for Mrs. Davis, our housekeeper, to make a few of my favorite dishes, her every gesture radiating joy at seeing her son. "I'll call your father and tell him to come home for lunch." Before I could stop her, she had already dialed his number. I took the opportunity to look around the house, and my mood lifted with every glance. As soon as Mom hung up, she was fussing over me again, asking if I was doing okay. It was clear she'd been worried sick about me ever since the original Ethan had married Chloe. "Ethan, if anything is wrong, you have to tell your father and me. We'll always be here for you." Looking at this beautiful, warm woman and remembering her tragic fate in the novel, I couldn't stop myself from stepping forward and hugging her, silently vowing to rewrite her and my father's ending. My mom's body stiffened for a second. How long had it been since her son had hugged her like this? "Mom, I'm sorry. I've made you worry so much these past few years. It won't happen again." Hearing my words, her eyes instantly welled up with tears. Since the wedding, I'd rarely come home, and even when I did, it was always about Chloe. Mom had warned that you can't force love, but her son had insisted he would marry no one else. I was their only child, the apple of their eye, so when I demanded to marry Chloe, they had given in. After the wedding, she watched me live unhappily, saw my pride and spirit fade away bit by bit, saw my world shrink until it seemed to contain only Chloe, and saw me lose my sense of right and wrong. As a mother, it broke her heart. I heard the sob in her voice and saw the tears in her red eyes. I reached up to wipe them away and gave her a reassuring smile. "Mom, look at me. I'm fine now, aren't I?" My mom looked at me, feeling that something was different this time, that I was more like my old self from long ago. By the time lunch was ready, my dad had returned, and he brought Ava with him. Ava was the daughter of my dad's best friend, and she was 3 years older than me. After her parents passed away, she lived with her grandmother, but it was difficult for an elderly woman to raise a child, so the Grant family took her in, raising her as our own and supporting her through college. She started working at Grant Corporation during college and became a senior executive right after graduation. I stole a glance at her, only to find her already looking at me. In the novel, the original Ethan had always treated her like an older sister. While he was chasing Chloe, he constantly told Ava how much he loved Chloe and asked for her help in winning her over. In front of him, she always played the part of the perfect older sister, doting, protective, and helpful, never once crossing the line. Even the readers of the novel never suspected a thing until the end. After Chloe and I divorced, Ava went looking for me, only to find me at the scene of a car crash. She held my trembling, blood-soaked body, her eyes instantly turning red. She kept wiping the blood from my lips, her voice numb. "Ethan, I regret it. I regret not stopping you two back then." The deep love in Ava's eyes was like a dense fog she no longer wished to conceal. She wanted me to know that she loved me, had loved me for many years. She tried desperately to hold on to me, but it was no use. She could only watch as my life slipped away before her very eyes. It was at that moment in the story that I developed a love-hate relationship with her character. Just then, my mom smiled and greeted her. "Ava, you're here too." I followed suit. "Hey, Ava." Ava looked at me, a hint of fond indulgence in her voice. "Aren't you usually busy delivering her lunch every day? What made you decide to grace us with your presence?" I just smiled and shook my head. "It's too hot out." She said it was too much trouble for me and told me to stop. The moment the words left my mouth, not just Ava, but my parents too, turned to stare at me with obvious disbelief. As expected, the people who cared about me most couldn't believe that Chloe would ever be kind to me. Seeing their expressions, I turned to Ava to change the subject. "Ava, how are things at the company?" She gave me a curious look. We're in negotiations for several major projects. If we land them, it will take the company to the next level. I looked at her, puzzled. Several major projects at once? What if cash flow gets tight? If the capital chain breaks and the Sterling family just stands by and watches? Ava just smiled. The company can handle it. I shook my head and looked at her seriously. I don't think the market is stable right now. The most important thing for the company should be to maintain stability and ensure we have enough cash flow to handle any potential risks. I couldn't be explicit, so this was the only way I could warn her. Ava looked at me, a hint of scrutiny in her eyes. Ethan, since when are you interested in company business? I realized my mistake. The original Ethan never cared about the company. I rubbed my chin and glanced at her, but I had to press on. You and Dad need to be extremely careful with these projects. You have to seriously consider if the company can handle the potential risks. Ava stared at me, trying to read my expression. Did you hear something from Chloe? Are you trying to get us to back off so she can have the projects? The original, lovesick Ethan had often pushed our family to help the Sterlings, so it was only natural for her to suspect my motives now. I shook my head. No, it's just, I keep having this nightmare that the company goes bankrupt, and it's making me worried. Ava fell silent, but it was clear she didn't buy it. I hesitated, then glanced at my parents across the room. Leaning in close to her, I cupped my hand around my mouth. Actually, I overheard Chloe saying she wants to ruin the Grant family. I pulled back, and I saw the tips of Ava's ears turn red. I hadn't expected that to fluster her. I awkwardly pretended not to notice and lowered my voice. I'm afraid it would be too much for Mom and Dad, so I can't tell them. And I don't know anything about business, so I can only count on you. Ava leaned back against the sofa, nonchalantly fiddling with her ear as she watched me. And what about you, Ethan? What are your plans? Before I could answer, my mom came over to call us for lunch. Looking at the feast spread across the table, my mood soared. My mom served me a piece of fish. Eat up, you've gotten so thin. I looked at all the amazing food and swallowed hard. It's because I haven't had a home-cooked meal in so long. A few days at home and I'm sure I'll fatten right up. Hearing this, my mom kept piling food onto my plate. If you want home-cooked meals, I'll have them delivered to you every day. I waved my hand. No need, Mom. I'm going to be living at home from now on. For a moment, everyone at the table, my parents and Ava, stopped and stared at me. I put down my chopsticks and looked at them seriously. Mom, Dad, Ava, I'm going to divorce Chloe. I used to think that if I just tried hard enough, I could make her love me. But I realize now you can't force love. I don't want to love her anymore. I just want to come home and be with you all. I said it with an air of nonchalance, with no trace of sadness or reluctance. But in the eyes of my family, the original Ethan's feelings for Chloe were deeply ingrained. My parents looked at me, clearly not believing I could just let her go so easily. Why is everyone so quiet? You're not thinking I'm a loser coming home to leech off you, are you? At that, my mom snapped out of it, her face breaking into a huge smile. Of course not. I'm just so happy you're coming home to be with me. My dad picked up his phone and transferred another $10 million to my account. Come home whenever you want. This family can afford to support you for 10 lifetimes. Looking at my parents, I felt a lump in my throat. In the novel, after the Grant family went bankrupt, the shock of discovering his own daughter-in-law was the mastermind caused my father to have a stroke, leaving him in a vegetative state. Unable to cope with the double blow, my mother fell into a deep depression and eventually took her own life. I had to change all of that. I served them some food in return, and just as I was putting my chopsticks down, a soft voice piped up. What about me? Ava was looking at me, a playful pout on her face as if she were competing with my parents for attention. I glanced at her and put a piece of meat on her plate. Meanwhile, at Sterling Industries, Chloe's assistant walked into her office with a stack of documents. Ms. Sterling, isn't Mr. Grant delivering your lunch today? Chloe glanced at her watch. By this time, I would have normally already arrived with her lunch. So, he's so scared of me divorcing him that he doesn't even dare to bring me food anymore. Pathetic. She gave her assistant a cool look. What, did you get addicted to his cooking? Should I call and ask him for you? The assistant quickly shook her head. No, I was just making a casual comment. The truth was, the assistant always ended up eating the lunch I brought, and she'd gotten used to it. Finally, her curiosity got the better of her. It's just, this is the first time Mr. Grant hasn't shown up. Seeing her boss's displeasure, the assistant quickly grabbed the signed documents and fled. For once, Chloe had a day uninterrupted by me. But after work, the image of last night's Ethan, dressed in that sharp suit, his eyes devoid of her, demanding a divorce, kept replaying in her mind. Chloe sneered and headed straight for a bar. The moment she entered the private suite, all her friends turned to look at her. She sat down on the sofa, and when they continued to stare, her expression soured. "What are you all staring at? Is something wrong with you?" Her best friend, Olivia, came over and asked tentatively, "Where's your shadow? Why isn't Ethan with you?" Chloe shot them a cold glare. "Weren't you all the ones who complained about him always following me around? Now he's not here. Isn't that what you wanted? Don't be ridiculous." Isabella, reading the room, poured Chloe a drink. "We're just worried. We're afraid that now that he's not chasing you, you'll suddenly start wanting him." As Chloe's best friends, they knew better than anyone that wherever Chloe went, Ethan was sure to follow. The Ethan they knew would never go to a club and order models, and he certainly wouldn't leave Chloe on her own to go on a trip to Miami. Chloe's face went frigid. "If you're not going to use your eyes, you might as well donate them." Olivia laughed. "Hey, as long as you don't care, it's all good. Come on, everyone, a toast to Chloe's temporary freedom from her suffering." Chloe picked up her glass and drank, completely ignoring the subtext of their conversation. After a few more drinks, Isabella held up her phone. "Chloe, I know Ethan forcing you into this marriage was a huge blow to your pride, but with his looks and family money, he's more than a match for you. How on earth did you manage to keep him from touching you for 2 whole years? Back when I only had eyes for Chloe, I made sure to get the iMessage contacts of all her friends, so they could all see my Facebook posts. My feed used to be a shrine to Chloe, filled with either couple photos to stake my claim or sappy love poems about her. I knew Chloe had muted my feed, so whenever I posted one of my essays, her friends would screenshot it and send it to their group chat to make fun of her. But just 2 hours ago, they discovered I had deleted every single post about Chloe from my Facebook and then posted a new status, landed in Miami. Now, I had just posted a 9-photo grid of myself in swim trunks, watching the sunset on the beach. The caption read, "Enjoying the most beautiful view with the person who loves me most." Seeing everyone staring at their phones, Chloe glanced over and saw the photo of me, smiling happily on the beach. Sophia stared at her phone. "It feels like Ethan has changed so much, all of a sudden." Olivia nodded in agreement. "He actually looks kind of handsome like this." Isabella smiled. "I guess this is what a man looks like when he's finally over someone." With a crash, Chloe slammed her wine glass onto the floor, her beautiful face turning to ice. Chloe glared at them. "Is there something wrong with you all? We came out for drinks, and every single one of you is glued to your phone, talking about Ethan Grant." With that, she stormed out, slamming the door behind her. Olivia looked bewildered. "I thought she didn't care. Why is she so furious?" Sophia chuckled. "You don't think she's actually starting to fall for him, do you?" Isabella narrowed her eyes. "I don't know if she is, but I'm starting to." Olivia and Sophia both stared at her. "You've got to be kidding." Back in her car, Chloe took out her phone, opened iMessage, and pulled up my Facebook profile. Only then did she see that I had gone on a trip to Miami. In the photos, my eyes were crinkled with laughter, practically glowing. Whether it was a profile shot with my head tilted back or a direct look at the camera, every pose radiated pure joy. It was like my eyes held all the beauty in the world. Was this Ethan Grant? The same spoiled rich kid whose eyes used to hold nothing but either adoration for her or rage at others? The man who loved to throw irrational tantrums? A person couldn't change that drastically overnight. Chloe refused to believe the man in the photos was the real me. Others might be fooled, but she knew better. This was just Ethan's way of avoiding the divorce conversation. Posting pictures of himself on Facebook was just another pathetic attempt to get her attention. And yet, even knowing my supposed motive, she found herself captivated by these uncharacteristically cheerful photos. Meanwhile, I was enjoying the first real vacation of my life. Miami had always been the #1 place I'd wanted to visit back in my old life. The cool breeze, the seafood feast, enjoying the view of the ocean at night while I ate, it all gave me one single feeling. Life is beautiful. In my past life, I was always broke. I never had the chance to experience anything like this, and there was nothing in my life worth remembering. But now, I felt like there were so many things worth capturing. The food, the scenery, the love of my family. The next morning, I mentioned I wanted to try scuba diving, so my mom hired a beautiful private instructor for me. She took me out, and I spent the day weaving through coral reefs and swimming with schools of fish, feeling completely relaxed and happy. Back in the CEO's office at Sterling Industries, Chloe took a call from her mother amidst her busy schedule. "Honey, why is Ethan on a trip with another woman? Did you two have a fight?" Chloe frowned. "No." Her mother's tone was stern. "If you didn't fight, would he be getting that close to another woman and deliberately posting it on Facebook?" Chloe pulled up my profile and saw the video I had shared just a few minutes earlier, with the caption, "First time scuba diving." Words can't describe how happy I am. In the video, a woman was with me, sometimes grabbing my arm, sometimes steadying me, her actions looking quite intimate. You couldn't see her face clearly through the diving gear, but you could tell she had an amazing body. In the comments, mutual friends from college were already chiming in. Get a room. I did not need to see this today. You two look so good together. I'm not saying I'm jealous, but Olivia, who was also in our graduating class, saw the post and realized everyone was mistaking the woman for Chloe. She tagged Chloe in their group chat. Sophia chuckled. Even if you file for divorce, there's still a 30-day cooling-off period. Ethan seems a little impatient. Isabella nodded. You can't really blame him. He's a young, hot-blooded guy. Who could put up with that? Their chat was interrupted by a system notification. Chloe Sterling has left the group. Idiots. The lot of them. Chloe was confident. How could Ethan possibly be willing to divorce her? His entire social media presence had always been for her benefit. He hadn't contacted her since yesterday, but his Facebook was constantly being updated. He was posting so frequently it was obviously for her to see. Posting this diving video was just like ordering those models at the club. It was all just a ploy to get her attention, to make her feel a sense of urgency and reach out to him, giving him an easy way out of this divorce nonsense. Man, so predictable. Chloe snorted. Ethan really overestimated his own importance. Him not bothering her was exactly what she wanted. She tossed her phone aside and went back to work, but the image of this new, changed Ethan kept flashing in her mind, leaving her feeling inexplicably agitated. She called her assistant and had her schedule packed solid with work. That evening, she took Liam Carter to the birthday gala for the daughter of the White family. Soon, the hashtag Chloe Sterling attends gala with Liam Carter was trending on Twitter. Chloe often brought Liam to formal events, but her lavish, sensational wedding to Ethan Grant, which had been live-streamed, was still fresh in the public's memory. Besides, reporters couldn't afford to offend either the Sterling or the Grant families, so no one dared to speculate openly about their private lives. However, every time Ethan saw one of these trending topics, he would assume Liam was trying to seduce Chloe and would go looking for trouble, warning him, sometimes even getting physical. When Chloe got back to her hotel suite and saw the trending topic, images of Ethan's past jealous rages and his current happy vacation photos flashed alternately in her mind. She felt a strange flicker of anticipation. She took a shower and went to bed. Meanwhile, I had spent the morning diving and the afternoon surfing. I couldn't have been happier. That night, after a shower, I was lying in bed scrolling through my phone when I saw that the original Ethan's informant had sent me the link to the trending Twitter topic about Chloe and Liam. I glanced at it. They were in the same photo, but there was no real gossip. I was getting anxious on their behalf. I was about to tell the informant I wasn't interested in news about Chloe anymore when a video call from Ava came through. Having fun? She asked. I nodded. Yeah, it's great. Ava had clearly just gotten out of the shower. She was still drying her hair with a towel, fresh from the steam. Her eyes held an extra allure. Her skin looked translucent and smooth, and her lips were a natural dewy red. I had to fight to keep my composure. Ava looked at me and mumbled, I want to go too. I shot her a look. Just focus on work. What I told you before wasn't a joke. It's real. The Sterlings are going to turn on us. You need to be prepared. The whole company is counting on you. Ava paused what she was doing and looked straight at me. Aren't you afraid I'm just like Chloe, plotting to take over the company? I smiled and shook my head. No, I trust you. Ava looked at me, her beautiful eyes warming. I didn't realize that would have such an effect on her. I quickly tried to end the conversation. All right, it's getting late. I'm going to bed. You should get some sleep too, she said with a hopeful look. Don't forget to bring me back a souvenir. Lying in bed, I thought about the years of unrequited love Ava had for the original Ethan and decided I should grant her small request. The next day, Chloe woke up and checked her phone. The topic was still trending, but Ethan hadn't contacted her, nor had he bothered Liam. She couldn't resist opening my Facebook profile again. I had posted a new update just 5 minutes ago, a video of me giving my mom a tour on a rented scooter. In the video, my handsome face was so alive with joy I looked like a walking advertisement for happiness, completely overshadowing the scenery around us. Chloe was stunned. Ethan hadn't come back. He was still on vacation. If he had time to post on Facebook, there was no way he hadn't seen the trending topic. But not only had he not come back, he seemed even happier than before. Chloe let out a laugh of pure frustration and tossed her phone aside. So he'd grown a spine this time. She'd just see how long I could keep it up. Chloe's day was packed from morning to night. When she got back to her hotel, she collapsed onto the sofa, exhausted. Staring at the warm glow of the lamp, the image of me happily riding that scooter flashed through her mind. She pulled out her phone and checked my Facebook again. I had posted another update a few hours ago. The caption read, "There's no one like a mother." The 9-photo grid was filled with pictures of me eating various local snacks or showing off little souvenirs I'd bought. In the center was a photo of me and my mom. In the comments, my dad had written, "So your dad isn't good?" I quickly replied, "Dad is good too." Seeing this, Ava chimed in, "Ethan, you're so biased. What about me?" I replied with a sigh, "Ava is good, the best in the world." Meanwhile, Chloe had been feeling a strange tightness in her chest for the past few days. It had been 3 days. 3 days since I had last tried to see her or contact her, and with each passing day, I seemed to be getting happier. Seeing me so happy made her feel sick, like she'd swallowed a fly. Just then, her phone buzzed. It was a message from me. The tightness in her chest suddenly vanished. The man had finally cracked. For the first time ever, she opened our iMessage chat with a flicker of anticipation. But my words were ice cold. "It's been days since I signed the divorce papers. Shouldn't we go finalize the paperwork?" Chloe stared at the text, her beautiful eyes widening in shock, her grip on her phone tightening. After a long moment, she got up, left, and drove home. The house, which always used to be lit up waiting for her no matter how late she returned, was now completely dark, illuminated only by the lonely, rhythmic glow of the streetlights outside. She switched on the foyer light and stepped inside. The house was empty, devoid of the figure that was always there waiting for her. On the coffee table, her black card sat atop the divorce agreement. She picked up the papers and opened them. The handwritten signature, Ethan Grant, was stark and bold. The paper crumpled in her hand as a storm of emotions churned within her. Ethan Grant, the man who was fighting over her and throwing jealous fits just a few days ago, actually wanted to divorce her? How was that possible? Chloe let out a cold, disbelieving laugh. Meanwhile, back at the Grant estate, my mom was unpacking bags of souvenirs from my trip and handing them out to the household staff. "Ethan said these were all delicious, so he brought some back for you all to try." The staff accepted the gifts with happy thanks, and a warm, joyful atmosphere filled the house. My dad was having his after-dinner tea, and Ava was on a work call. The house was large, but it felt warm and full of life, not empty at all. I held my phone, noticing Chloe still hadn't replied, and made a mental note to call her in a bit. Ava sat down next to me. "Where's my souvenir?" I looked up and met her clear eyes, which held a flicker of hopeful expectation. Seeing her through the lens of her long-held affection, it was hard not to feel a sense of partiality towards her. I got up, opened my suitcase, and took out 2 small night lights. One was crafted from a beautiful murex shell. "Which one do you want?" Ava looked at them both. "Who's the other one for?" I didn't call out her little game. "It's for me." Ava broke into a radiant smile, picking up the shell night light and examining it closely. My mom, having finished handing out the other gifts, saw the light in her hand and commented, "Oh, Ethan made that one himself." At that, Ava's head snapped up, and she looked right at me, the delighted surprise in her eyes impossible to conceal. "You made this?" The original Ethan had only ever made handmade gifts for Chloe. After years of secret adoration, this was the first time she had ever received something handmade from me. I could only imagine her joy. I put on a stern face and glanced at her. "What, you don't like it? If you don't like it, give it back." Ava immediately shook her head. "No, I love it." She just kept looking at me, and I could feel the deep, restrained affection in her gaze, a look so alluring I could barely handle it. I stood up, phone in hand. "I'm tired. I'm going to my room to rest." Back in my room, I opened my phone and saw Chloe had finally replied. "City Hall, 9 a.m. tomorrow." In the novel, Chloe bankrupted the Grant family before forcing me into a divorce where I got nothing. If we divorced now, ahead of schedule, did that mean I could change my family's fate? My mood soared. I was so excited I set an alarm, terrified I might oversleep. The next day, I woke up before my alarm. Thinking about my impending freedom, I took extra care to dress well. When I went downstairs, my dad had already left for work, and my mom was in the sunroom, trimming flowers she'd picked from the garden. She saw me and called me over for breakfast. I was in a hurry, so I made an excuse and left, planning to surprise them with the news after the divorce was final. The original Ethan had a driver's license, but I didn't know how to drive. I only knew how to ride an electric scooter. I'd been too poor in my past life to even think about getting a license. The car I'd called arrived at City Hall at 8:50. I pulled out my phone and called Chloe. "I'm here. When will you get here?" "Soon," she replied. Soon apparently meant making me wait under a tree until 9:30. I was so mad I cursed her and all her ancestors before I finally saw her car pull up. I rushed forward eagerly. Chloe watched me through the car window. Why did he seem to be getting more handsome? As I walked towards her car, backlit by the sun, I seemed to glow, eclipsing everything around me. I stopped and knocked on her window. Only then did Chloe seem to snap out of it and open the door. She got out and our eyes met, but my gaze held no trace of her, no hint of sadness. There was only a happy, slightly unfamiliar smile, which was not what she had expected at all. I gave her a brief, indifferent glance. Let's go. With that, I turned and walked towards the entrance of City Hall, my steps light and eager. It was only at that moment that Chloe was finally convinced. I really wanted a divorce. She watched my retreating back, the memory of being forced into this marriage flashing in her mind. It had been over 2 years, but the memory was still as vivid as yesterday. Being forced to marry me was a humiliation. From the moment we were married, she had been plotting the day she would get her revenge. But that day hadn't come yet, and now I wanted a divorce? I walked a few steps, then noticed she was still standing by the car. I frowned and walked back. What's wrong? Her silence gave me a bad feeling. Don't tell me you forgot your ID. You came to get a divorce and you didn't bring your ID. I tried to keep my cool. Fine. Have someone bring it over. Quickly. Chloe just stared at me with a cold expression, saying nothing. I was exasperated. Well, make the call. What are you staring at me for? Only then did Chloe lower her gaze, glance at her watch, and finally deign to speak. I have a meeting at 10. We'll deal with the divorce some other time. I frowned. We're already here. Why make another trip? Just postpone the meeting. It won't kill you to be a little late after we've filed the papers. We had finally made it this far. I didn't want to wait and risk something else coming up. I only said that because in the novel, Chloe was always postponing meetings for Liam, so I knew they couldn't be that important. But the moment the words left my mouth, her expression shifted, and she looked at me as if I'd committed some unforgivable sin, her face turning absolutely glacial. Ethan Grant, do you really think your affairs are the most important thing in the world? That the livelihoods of thousands of employees are less important than your divorce? You think far too highly of yourself. I was stunned into silence for a few seconds by her tirade. What a hypocrite. It was fine for Liam to make her postpone meetings, but when I suggest it, suddenly the livelihoods of her employees are at stake. And also, is this divorce just my business? Isn't she part of it too? Chloe didn't even give me time to respond before she turned and walked away. So much for getting a divorce. She shows up late without her ID, and I'm the one who should be angry, yet she's the one who stormed off, slamming her car door. I was so angry I could spit. I already had the Facebook post celebrating my new single life planned out, not to mention my plans for a night on the town. And for what? I went to a convenience store, bought an armful of junk food, and headed to Grant Corporation. When Chloe returned from her meeting, she found me sitting on her office sofa, playing a game on my phone with a spicy jerky stick hanging out of my mouth. The whole office reeked of it. The coffee table was covered in junk food, the kind of stuff the old Ethan would never have touched. Chloe frowned in disgust. What are you doing here? I didn't even look up from my phone as I chewed on my jerky. Waiting for you. Chloe paused, giving me a long look before walking to her desk and sitting down. Waiting for me for what? She asked. Eating junk food, playing games on his phone, with none of the airs of a wealthy heir. This Ethan was a complete stranger to her. I finally paused my game and looked up at her. We didn't get the divorce finalized this morning, right? I know you're busy, so I figured I'd wait here until you're done, and we can go then. Chloe gave me a cold stare. I'm busy for the rest of the day. I gave her a skeptical look. Then when will you be free? Chloe picked up a file from her desk. I'll contact you when I have time. I had a feeling she was backing out. If she really wanted a divorce, how could she not find the time? But why would she change her mind? She hated the original Ethan. Shouldn't a divorce be a relief for her? Or had she not had her fill of torturing me yet? Although the novel never explicitly stated it, her attitude towards the original Ethan was clearly a form of revenge for the forced marriage. The more he wanted her love, the more she made him suffer the pain of wanting something he could never have. Now that I wanted a divorce, was she going to make me suffer the pain of not being able to get one? I shot to my feet, furious. Chloe Sterling, do you want this divorce or not? I'm giving you 3 days. If you don't come with me to finalize this in 3 days, I'll sue for divorce. This isn't a negotiation. It's a notification. With that, I grabbed my bag of snacks and turned to leave. Just then, the office door opened and Liam Carter walked in. The moment he saw me, a look of fear flashed in his eyes. Am I interrupting something? Liam was about to back out, but Chloe waved him in. No, your timing is perfect. Liam was the male lead of the novel, a character with the classic tragic backstory. His father was a gambling addict, and his mother was chronically ill. When his father racked up huge debts in high school, Liam had to start working to support them. Chloe had saved him, signed him to her entertainment company, and turned him into a household name. As the novel's hero, he was kind, hardworking, and morally upright. He'd fallen for Chloe the moment she helped him, but always felt he wasn't good enough for her, so he never confessed, instead dedicating himself to becoming a man worthy of her. After Chloe was forced into marriage, Liam, despite his love for her, stuck to his principles and refused to be a homewrecker, maintaining a platonic distance. The novel was told mostly from Liam's and the original Ethan's perspectives, with Chloe's feelings for Liam shown through her actions. In the part I'd read, they still hadn't confessed, so their mutual, restrained pining had earned endless sympathy and anticipation from the readers. Meanwhile, everyone was constantly begging for the villain, the original Ethan, to be written out of the story. I was already on my way out. I glanced from Chloe to Liam, then beat a hasty retreat with a genuine smile on my face. "You two take your time. I won't disturb you." As I passed Liam, I could feel him flinch away from me. I couldn't blame him for being scared. The original Ethan had always seen him as the man trying to destroy his marriage and had made a point of harassing him at every opportunity, even trying to have him beaten up a few times. Now, trying to clean up my image, I walked out of the office and even thoughtfully closed the door behind me. Liam watched me go, completely bewildered, then looked back at Chloe. He saw her staring at the closed door, her expression colder than he'd ever seen it. As Liam approached with a bag of souvenirs he'd brought for her, he saw that the fountain pen in Chloe's hand had scribbled a mess all over the document in front of her. She looked up from the paper, her gaze clearing as she asked, "What brings you here?" Liam smiled and placed the bag on her desk. "Some specialties from my trip. I thought they were good, so I brought some for you. And thank you for helping me find that doctor for my mom." He then looked at her, his eyes full of restrained emotion. "Are you and Ethan really getting a divorce?" Meanwhile, I came out with my snacks and ran right into Chloe's assistant, who was on her way in with a file for Chloe to sign. I stuck my arm out, blocking her way. "Your boss is in an important meeting right now. Wait until Liam Carter comes out before you go in." The assistant looked from the closed office door to me, completely baffled. Liam Carter was in there, and Mr. Grant wasn't throwing a jealous fit. He was just standing here calmly. I opened my bag of jerky. "Want some?" The assistant, a self-proclaimed foodie, couldn't resist and took a piece. "Thank you, Mr. Grant," I chuckled. "From now on, try to be a little more perceptive. When Liam Carter comes to see Chloe, don't go in and disturb them." The assistant just nodded, not saying a word. I left her with that and walked away. Helping them get together was helping myself. The sooner they couldn't resist their feelings for each other, the sooner Chloe would finalize the divorce with me. After all, suing for divorce required proof that the marriage had irretrievably broken down, which sounded like a huge hassle. The assistant waited until Liam left before going in with her file. As Chloe signed, the assistant couldn't help but gossip. "You'll never guess what Mr. Grant just told me." Chloe glanced up at her. The assistant continued, "He said I could only come in after Liam left. He also said that from now on, whenever Liam comes to see you, I shouldn't disturb you." Chloe threw a file at her. "Does he pay your salary?" The assistant caught the file. "Don't you think Mr. Grant has changed? It's like he's not jealous anymore. It's almost like he's trying to set you up with Liam." A chilling smile touched Chloe's lips. "Have you had too much free time on your hands lately?" The assistant immediately shut her mouth, grabbed the signed document, and fled. Chloe slammed her pen down on the desk, the smile on her lips slowly fading into a cold line, her eyes narrowing. I left Chloe's office building and saw it was almost noon, so I hailed a cab and went home. After lunch with my mom, I looked up a nearby driving school and called to ask about lessons. After all, with a garage full of sports cars that I could only look at, the inability to drive was pure torture. The original Ethan had a license, so I just needed to learn the actual skill of driving. The driving school had a private training course, which was perfect. I made an appointment and took a car over. True to the principle that money can make anything happen, the school's owner assigned me a private instructor, a beautiful woman with the patience of a saint. I have to say, you get what you pay for. I felt hopelessly clumsy behind the wheel, but the instructor, Sarah, never once lost her cool. She spent the entire afternoon encouraging and reassuring me, providing top-tier emotional support. I spent the whole afternoon at it and finally, just barely, got the hang of it. To thank my instructor, I invited her out to dinner. Meanwhile, just as Chloe was leaving her office, she got a message from Olivia. "Chloe, we were out of line last time. We weren't thinking about your feelings. Let us treat you to dinner tonight to make it up to you." 20 minutes later, Chloe walked into the restaurant Olivia had booked and immediately spotted a familiar figure. It was me, and I was laughing happily. Chloe approached quietly, just in time to hear me openly complimenting the woman across from me. "Sarah, a woman with your looks and figure. Why are you wasting your talents as a driving school instructor?" Sarah smiled and explained she wasn't actually an instructor. She was the owner's daughter, roped into teaching me because they were short-staffed. Couldn't help but laugh at that. As I was laughing, I felt a chilling gaze on me. I looked up and saw Chloe standing nearby, her face an icy mask. Before I could even speak, Chloe grabbed my arm and dragged me out of the restaurant. "Ethan Grant, we aren't even divorced yet, and you're already out cavorting with other women?" I looked at her, so close I could see the fury in her eyes. Such a beautiful face, wasted on such a volatile temper. I rubbed my wrist. What other women? I was having a perfectly normal dinner. "Stop making things up." Chloe glared at me. "A normal dinner? Do you take me for a fool?" I didn't want to look at her, so I tilted my head back and looked at the sky. "If you think you're a fool, there's nothing I can do about it." Chloe let out a sharp, angry laugh. "Ethan Grant, do you think this is 2 years ago? That I have to put up with whatever you do? From now on, I'm the one in charge here." Seeing her touch me, which I knew was like torture for her, I decided to press my advantage. I smiled, stepped closer, and boldly wrapped an arm around her slender waist. "So tell me, what exactly do you have in mind?" Chloe swallowed hard, her expression turning grim as she grabbed my wrist. I knew she despised the original Ethan's touch, so every time I made contact, her disgust grew. Seeing her face darken, I raised my other hand and took hers, continuing my campaign to repulse her. "How about we get a room?" Her summer dress was thin, and as my hand brushed against her leg, it sent a jolt through her, like an itch she couldn't scratch. Chloe's face flushed as she stared at me. The old Ethan would never have been so audacious, so alluring. My eyes held no love for her, yet my actions screamed that I craved her body, treating her as if she were some common escort. Chloe swallowed again, her face growing even colder. Since she still hadn't shoved me away in disgust, I leaned in as if to kiss her. That finally did it. She pushed me away forcefully and pulled out a handkerchief to wipe her hands. "Ethan Grant, get rid of your delusions. You will never get what you want from me." And then it hit me. Of course, the only reason she wouldn't grant me a divorce was because I was the one who wanted it. I rubbed my wrist and sneered. "Ever consider the possibility that what I can't get from you, I can get from other women? I might crave your body, but let's be honest, with the lights off, all women are the same. It's not like you're my only option." Chloe's face was as black as ink. She clenched her jaw, threw the handkerchief on the ground, and let out a laugh that was pure rage. "Then by all means try." I smiled at her. "I was just about to, but you interrupted. If you don't have anything else, I'm going back inside to continue. My phone is still in there." Seeing that Chloe wasn't going to stop me, I went back inside. But I had barely sat down when my phone buzzed. I picked it up. Chloe had sent me a video. I opened it and my face went pale. The video contained evidence of the original Ethan hiring people to kidnap Liam, footage of me shoving someone into the street during a fight, causing an accident, and another clip of me hiring thugs to beat Liam up. This was enough evidence to land me in prison for years. She hadn't used it before because she was wary of the Grant family's power. The fact that she was using it now meant she was no longer afraid. I'd only had a few days of this good life. I didn't come to this world just to end up in jail. Another message from Chloe came through. "You have 2 minutes. Get up here." She was blackmailing me. As much as I hated it, I hated the idea of prison even more. Sarah, seeing my pale face, poured me a glass of water. "What's wrong?" I waved my hand dismissively. "Sorry, something's come up. I have to go. You take your time." With that, I quickly paid the bill and headed upstairs to Chloe's private suite. In the suite, Olivia had arrived just in time to see the confrontation between Chloe and me in front of the restaurant. She'd snapped a photo and was now sharing it with her friends. From her angle, it looked like Chloe was passionately and dominantly making a move on me. Then they had all crowded by the window and watched me walk away without a backward glance, which only confirmed their theory that Chloe had forced herself on me. Olivia said with a surprised tone, "Okay, new rule for tonight. Nobody mentions Ethan Grant." When Chloe walked into the suite, Olivia immediately greeted her, and everyone started chatting and laughing, pointedly avoiding any mention of me. So when I pushed the door open and walked in, all 3 of her friends froze in surprise. Olivia, ever the quick thinker, immediately stood up, clearing the seat next to Chloe for me and setting out a new set of silverware. "Ethan, you're here." I smiled and waved a greeting to them, then shot a look at Chloe and walked over to the empty seat. The 3 friends looked from me to Chloe, then proceeded to ignore me as usual. I gritted my teeth, jabbed my chopsticks through the plastic wrap on my bowl, leaned closer to Chloe, and whispered, "What is the meaning of this?" Chloe smirked. "Just wanted you to be a little more obedient." My fists clenched. Didn't this woman have any hobbies other than tormenting me? I forced a smile and picked up a piece of food for her with my chopsticks. "Of course, my dearest wife. Your wish is my command. If you tell me to warm your bed, I won't stop at just warming the room." Chloe shot me a look and set down her empty wine glass. I immediately refilled it. After a whole afternoon of driving lessons, I was starving. Since Chloe wasn't making any more demands, I started to eat, enjoying my food. After I finished my first bowl of rice, I realized everyone was staring at me. I got myself a second bowl and gave them all a big smile. "Anyone else want more? I can get it for you." Her three friends looked even more shocked. Ethan Grant, the man who usually only had eyes for Chloe, was offering to serve them. A second later, Chloe finally spoke. "Since you love being so helpful, why don't you peel these shrimp for me? They're my favorite." My fists clenched again in anger. Damn it, I didn't even want to peel them for myself. I forced a smile, sat down, and looked at her. "Of course, my dear wife." I took the plate of shrimp and started peeling, my mind racing, trying to figure a way out of this. I couldn't let her blackmail me forever. I was so lost in thought that I absent-mindedly popped a peeled shrimp into my own mouth. Chloe watched me eat the shrimp, a strange, unreadable expression in her eyes as I continued to enjoy them. I felt a gaze so cold it could cut glass, which snapped me back to reality. I quickly took the next shrimp I had peeled and stuffed it into her mouth. "I tested it for you," I said. "It's safe, not poisoned." Having been force-fed, Chloe began to chew instinctively, and the icy look in her eyes softened slightly. The old Chloe would have been disgusted if I had even put food on her plate, but now, after I fed her directly, she not only ate it but seemed to be enjoying it. Immediately, her friends started to hoot. "Could you two please consider the single people in the room before you get all lovey-dovey?" I was fuming internally and couldn't stand their teasing. Isabella swirled the wine in her glass, looking at me. "Ethan, Chloe is so hard to please. Have you ever considered finding someone else to dote on?" I popped another peeled shrimp into Chloe's mouth, putting on an adoring expression as if she were the only person in the world. My voice turned syrupy sweet. "She might be a little hard to please, but she's so beautiful. I just love how gorgeous and cool she is, and that amazing body." Chloe watched me spout these lies, a pleasant smile on her face, but I knew that inwardly she was grinding her teeth to dust. A flicker of amusement appeared in her otherwise cold eyes. After dinner, as we left the restaurant, I was planning on heading back to my parents' house, but Chloe tossed her car keys to me. "You're driving." I drank, so I can't. And since the original Ethan knew how to drive, I couldn't refuse. Seeing Chloe settle into the back seat, I steeled myself and got behind the wheel. Thank God I had taken that lesson this afternoon. Still, I was a new driver and I was nervous, especially driving at night. I focused completely on the road, driving at a crawl. Chloe leaned back in her seat, watching me drive her luxury car at the speed of a tractor. She let out an exasperated laugh. "Could you possibly go any slower?" My hands were sweating on the steering wheel. My entire focus was on driving. I couldn't afford any distractions. "Don't talk to me," I snapped. Chloe's face instantly darkened. "Ethan Grant, are you forgetting your place?" The next second, the car shot forward like an arrow. I watched the speedometer climb, my mind going completely blank for a second. Chloe saw the sudden, reckless speed. There was a car right in front of us, and I wasn't slowing down. It was like I was trying to kill us both. Her face went taut with fear, and she screamed, "Ethan, are you crazy? Hit the brakes." I yelled back, "I am hitting the brake." It was only then that I realized I'd mistaken the gas pedal for the brake. I slammed my foot on the correct pedal, but it was too late. In the midst of the panic, I heard a loud crunch, and then the world went silent. When I came to, my neck and head were aching. I heard Chloe hiss my name through clenched teeth. "Ethan Grant." I glanced back at her. "I was driving perfectly fine. You were the one who insisted on distracting me." Chloe stared at me, her face a cold mask, and squeezed out the words, "And so." Before she could say more, I cut her off with a stream of apologies. "It's my fault, all my fault. I'm just pathetic. The moment I hear your voice, I get so nervous I can't even tell the brake from the gas." I said the words, but my face showed no actual remorse. With that, I got out of the car. Chloe, her face still a mask of fury, called her assistant to come deal with the mess. When she hung up, she saw me rubbing my neck, bent over and talking to the driver of the car we'd hit, my posture clearly apologetic. This version of me was a world away from the one in Chloe's memory. The Ethan she remembered never apologized to anyone but her. He was spoiled and arrogant, and even when he was in the wrong, he acted superior, as if the other person deserved it. In a situation like this, the old Ethan wouldn't have even gotten out of the car. He would have just made a phone call and let someone else handle it, without a single thought for the other driver. But here I was, rushing to check on the other driver. "Are you okay?" The woman got out of her car, touching her face. A bruise was already forming on her forehead, a blemish on her otherwise fair and perfect features. When I got a clear look at her face, a wave of guilt washed over me. It was the famous young actress Maya Reed. The novel mentioned her as a former child star who co-starred with Liam in his first big movie. Her casting had been a cause for major celebration among his fans. But in that same year, just before the original Ethan's death, Maya Reed had also died. She left a long suicide note and took her own life. Behind the sunny, smiling girl everyone saw on screen was a pair of parasitic, blood-sucking parents. They had clipped her wings, forced her to become a money-making machine with no regard for her own feelings or dreams. Suffering from long-term depression, the final straw came when her parents forced her to entertain a powerful industry mogul. In the end, Maya chose to take her own life. When I read her story, I felt like she was a reflection of my own past life, and I cried for her. Just then, Maya glanced at her damaged car, then looked down at me, a wry smile in her eyes. "Well, I guess this is what they mean by disaster striking out of the blue, huh?" I snapped back to the present, a pang of sympathy for her still in my eyes. "I am so sorry. I'll cover all the repairs for your car, of course, and any medical bills, plus compensation for your trouble." Most people's first reaction to seeing her was one of starstruck awe. This was the first time anyone had ever looked at her with such open sympathy, as if they could see the unhappiness hidden beneath her glamorous facade. While she was still processing it, I pulled out my phone. "Can I get your contact information? It'll make it easier to handle the compensation." Maya didn't really care about the car or the compensation, but something about the look in my eyes made her take my phone and enter her number. She called her own phone to save my number, then handed it back. "You don't recognize me, do you?" I put my phone away, a smile playing on my lips. "The famous Maya Reed? Of course I recognize you. I'm a huge fan. Could I maybe get your autograph?" Maya looked at me skeptically. When he'd first seen her, this man had shown none of the usual excitement of a fan meeting their idol. When she didn't move, I stepped forward and gave her a gentle hug. "If you won't give me an autograph, then a hug will have to do." Maya stood there, stunned. It wasn't the excited, frantic hug of a typical fan. I just held her quietly, my gesture both a comfort and a confession. "You're truly amazing. Your work has given so many people the courage to face their own struggles, the motivation to keep going. I hope that one day, we, your fans, can give you that same courage and be the strength that helps you move forward." Chloe watched from the car as I handled the accident and saw it somehow devolve into me flirting with the other driver. Her face darkened. She got out of the car, pulled me out of Maya's embrace, and just as her assistant arrived, she snatched the keys from my hand and dragged me away. Maya stood there, watching me go, my words still echoing in her mind. I turned and gave her a final wave, my smile as bright as a spring morning, a perfect, beautiful moment frozen in time under the warm streetlights. Chloe's face was thunderous, her voice dripping with ice. "Ethan Grant, cheating on me right in front of my face. You're getting bolder and bolder." I leaned in close to her. "Chloe, my fate is in your hands now. If you don't want me touching other women, then even if I wanted to, I wouldn't have the nerve. Right now, my only thought is how to make you happy. So, how about tonight?" I made a show of leaning in even closer, and as expected, Chloe recoiled in disgust. She coldly opened the car door and shoved me inside. A few minutes down the road, I got a call from my mom. "Ethan, it's so late. Why aren't you home yet?" I didn't want them to worry, but now that the divorce was on hold and Chloe was blackmailing me, I knew I couldn't stay at their house every night. I had no choice but to lie. "I'm not coming home tonight." Chloe apologized to me, and I've decided to give her another chance. From the driver's seat, Chloe snorted at me in the rearview mirror. My mom had expected this outcome, so she wasn't surprised, just a little disappointed. "Well, then you and she should come over for dinner tomorrow." I glanced at Chloe, who was now driving, and reluctantly agreed. "Okay," my mom added, "remember to tell me if anything's wrong, and get some rest." I murmured my agreement. "You and Dad get some sleep too. Don't worry about me." The moment I hung up, Chloe's grating voice piped up. "I apologize to you? For what, exactly?" I just smiled and waved my hand dismissively. It was just an excuse for my parents. How could you ever be in the wrong? It's always my fault. I figured that acting miserable while still having to suck up to her would give her the sadistic pleasure she craved. If she was satisfied, my life would be easier. But Chloe decided to push her luck. I remember you used to love writing those little essays on Facebook. Since you know you were wrong, you can write one tonight. At least 3,000 words. The original Ethan used to write them every day, and Chloe had muted his feed so she wouldn't see them. Now that I didn't love her and had deleted all those old posts, she was forcing me to write them again. I had no choice but to smile and agree. I'll get right on it when we get home. The moment we got home, I went straight to my room and sent a message to Ava. Ava, what are the odds we could take down Sterling Industries? Or how much would it cost to acquire them? Sterling Industries had become a local powerhouse in just a few years. There had to be some skeletons in their closet. I refused to believe that I, a transmigrator with knowledge of the future, couldn't beat her at her own game. In the novel, Chloe destroyed Grant Corporation. So I would destroy Sterling Industries. I might not know much about business, but I could give the Grant family a head start on all the next big money-making trends. Ava video called me, a slight smile on her face. You hate her that much now? A second later, realizing I wasn't at the Grant estate, she frowned. You're back at the house you bought for her? I didn't hide anything. I told her about Chloe blackmailing me with the videos. What videos? Send them to me. I sent them over and then added nonchalantly, you all didn't know about any of this, did you? Ava was silent for a long time. It was clear she really hadn't known. Chloe must have cleaned up my messes privately for the sake of her own company's image. Seeing my chance, I pressed on. Now she's using it as leverage against me. That's why I have to take her down and get that leverage back. I remember Grant Corp has its own media division, right? Have someone send me the files on all our signed artists. Ava looked confused. What do you want that for? I just smiled. I've thought of a great new money-making project. It's too much to explain over the phone. I'll tell you the details tomorrow. As a wage slave who wrote on the side, I had been looking into the short-form drama industry right before I died. Several series, made for just a few $100,000, were pulling in millions a day in viewer payments. They were quick to produce, too. You could film several in a single month. The only real requirements were a handsome male lead and a beautiful female lead. The acting was usually mediocre and the plots were mindless wish fulfillment, but people loved them. In the age of viral short-form video, these dramas were a gold mine. In this novel's world, TikTok was just taking off, but the short-form drama trend hadn't started yet. The entertainment industry was still focused on traditional film and TV, with no concept of the rebirth or transmigration power fantasy genres. If I produced all the hit short dramas I'd seen from my old world, no one would be able to catch up. After the call, I took a shower. By the time I was done, the email with the artist files had arrived. I opened it on my laptop and saw that the company had recently signed a batch of new talent. I decided I'd make time to go to the agency and check them out in person. But first, I had to turn those hit shows into scripts. Determined to free myself from Chloe's blackmail as soon as possible, I got right to work. I was deep in the zone when a message from Chloe popped up. What's wrong? Is 3,000 words too difficult? Should I make it 5,000? I glanced at the clock. It was 11 p.m. This woman didn't sleep, and she was still thinking about my stupid essay. She was unbelievable. Determined to make her regret it, I quickly typed up a new Facebook post, setting the privacy to only Chloe. I think I'm growing more and more ravenous for your body. Otherwise, why would I be up at this hour, imagining your cool lips, wondering if they're as sweet as I dream, and that body you keep so carefully covered up all day? I wonder if it's as perfect as I imagine. Chloe couldn't believe I could be so shameless, so openly writing about my lustful fantasies of her. Her face flushed red, then pale, then red again. But she quickly realized something was off. Normally, the moment I posted, my sycophantic former classmates would rush to like and comment. It was prime time for social media scrolling, yet a few minutes had passed, and there wasn't a single like or comment. It was obvious I was unhappy and had written it just for her to see. Chloe immediately replied, "Excellent work. Write one every day from now on." Seeing her message, I skipped sleep entirely and threw myself into writing the scripts. I wrote the outlines for 2 different series and then hammered out the first 20 episodes for each. By the time I was done, it was past 5 a.m. I was completely exhausted. I encrypted the files, saved them, and collapsed into bed. When Chloe woke up, she saw there was no breakfast on the table and the house was silent. She tried the handle of my bedroom door and found it was still locked. She knocked. I was dead tired. I pulled the covers over my head, but it was no use. The knocking was relentless. Finally, I was jolted awake by pure irritation. I stumbled to the door and opened it. What could possibly be so important at this hour? My hair was a mess, and I couldn't stop yawning, giving me a kind of lazy, disheveled charm. Chloe looked at me coldly. "Where's breakfast?" That woke me up completely. She was banging on my door for breakfast? I don't run a diner. I stepped forward and wrapped her in a tight hug, my own petty form of revenge. There's no breakfast. Why don't you have me instead? For a second, Chloe seemed dazed, but then the familiar, reflexive nausea kicked in, and she shoved me away. Are you sure? Chloe's voice was laced with a threat. I gritted my teeth. I'll go make you something now. I hadn't set foot in the kitchen since I arrived in this world. There was hardly any food in the fridge. I finally found a packet of noodles and a few eggs and made a simple bowl. By the time I was done, Chloe was gone. I figured she'd decided against it, so I ate the noodles myself, planning to go back to bed for a bit. Just then, I got a message from Chloe. Bring it to the office when it's ready. Of course, this woman really had a talent for tormenting people. I gritted my teeth, changed my clothes, and grabbed my laptop. On my way out, I saw the black card she'd left on the coffee table was still there. I picked it up and slipped it into my pocket. I ended up just buying some takeout breakfast and dropping it off at Sterling Industries. Chloe was in a meeting, so I just left it on her desk and got out of there. From there, I drove to Grant Corporation, found Ava, and showed her the scripts on my laptop. I've got 2 scripts here, one transmigration and one rebirth. Ava, take a look. Ava opened the files curiously. After reading just the first few pages, she looked up at me, her face a picture of disbelief. I pulled up a chair and waited until she'd read a bit more before I spoke. I'm planning to produce them as short-form web dramas. I explained the concept to her and laid out the potential for the future. TikTok is just starting to blow up now. It already has over 100 million users, and in the future, Ava watched me, a smile playing on her lips, her eyes shining as I spoke passionately about the business plan. Thinking about the scripts she just read, for a fleeting moment, she wondered if the Ethan in front of her was actually a transmigrator. If he hadn't been replaced by another soul, how could he have changed so drastically? I saw Ava staring at me in a daze and reached out to gently pinch her soft cheek. I had to admit, with skin and a face like that, even a saint would be tempted. Ava, what do you think? Ava sat back, crossing her arms. Since this is your idea, why don't you take the lead on it? I nodded. No problem. I'll send you the full scripts. You can get them to a director to start prepping. I'll head over to the talent agency later to cast the leads. Can you give them a heads up for me? Ava looked at me. Do you want me to come with you? I waved her off. No, you've got enough on your plate. I'll let you know if I run into any problems. I was about to leave when I remembered something and turned back. One more thing. I want to sign Maya Reed. Ava leaned back in her chair, looking at me with curiosity. Why the sudden interest in her? I gave a vague explanation. I just think she's a rare talent. She's going to be a huge star. But her mother has always been her manager, and it doesn't seem like they're looking to sign with an agency. Have legal draw up a contract. I'll handle the negotiations with her mother. Ava stared at my confident expression, momentarily stunned. I had just left the office and was on my way to the talent agency when I got a text from Chloe. If lunch today is takeout again, you can expect to see yourself in the headlines. I gritted my teeth. That woman was truly dedicated to making my life miserable. I checked the time, then went to a luxury department store and spent over $100,000 of her money on gifts for my parents before heading back to their place to freeload a meal. My mom, seeing me return with a happy expression and gifts in hand, assumed Chloe must be with me and kept glancing towards the door. Ethan, are you here by yourself? I waved my hand. She was too busy to come. My mom came over, smiling. You coming home is enough of a gift. You didn't have to buy us anything. We have everything we need. She said she didn't need anything, but she held the designer bag I'd bought her, turning it over and over, a massive smile on her face. She declared that all her other bags could be retired now. She loved this one so much. The staff chimed in with praise. Ma'am, that bag is beautiful. It goes perfectly with your outfit. My mom stood up, holding the bag and admiring it in the mirror. You think so? My son bought it for me. I was surprised to see her so happy. I had assumed that a woman who had everything wouldn't care about one more gift. After lunch, I asked Mrs. Davis to pack up the leftovers for Chloe. When she heard they were for Chloe, her eyes nearly popped out of her head in surprise. Young master, is it really appropriate to give Miss Sterling leftovers? Should I cook something fresh for her? I waved my hand. No, this is fine. Mrs. Davis kept glancing at me as she packed. In the past, whenever I brought food for Chloe, I would meticulously pick out only the best dishes for her. By the time I got to Sterling Industries, it was almost 1 o'clock. I saw Chloe's assistant in the lobby and shoved the thermal container into her hands. This is for your boss. The 5th time Chloe checked the time, her office door opened. She looked up instinctively and saw her assistant walk in, holding the thermal container with a smile. Mr. Grant has started bringing you lunch again. Chloe's face grew a shade colder. Where is he? The assistant gestured vaguely. He already left. The assistant had been eating takeout for days and had actually started to miss my cooking. Seeing that Chloe had no other questions, she picked up the container, ready to take it out and enjoy it herself as usual. Ms. Sterling, if there's nothing else, I'll be on my way. But she was stopped by Chloe's cold voice. Where are you taking that? The assistant looked at her, confused. But you never eat the food Mr. Grant brings. Feeling the dangerous, icy aura emanating from her boss, the assistant immediately shut her mouth, placed the container on the desk, and said, Ms. Sterling, please enjoy your meal. I'll get back to work. Chloe leaned back in her chair, staring at the container, then picked up her phone. I had just gotten back in my car and finished a call with the director of the talent agency when my phone rang. It was Chloe. Get me a coffee from the place on Lexington Avenue and deliver it to me personally. I gritted my teeth. Is your assistant dead? Why do I have to run such a petty errand? Chloe's reply was instant. It would be a waste of her talents. You, on the other hand, are perfectly suited for the job. Well, thank you for letting me know I'm still useful for something. I hung up and went to the talent agency anyway. The director led me into a room of aspiring actors. I scanned the lineup, then walked over to a group of young women. I reached out and touched the cheek of the girl on the far left, then gave her arm a light squeeze. Your arms are a little soft. You'll need to tone up. The girl's face immediately flushed. I turned to the girl next to her, tilting her chin from side to side to examine her jawline, then pinched her waist. You're also a little soft. You'll need to lose some weight. The girl couldn't help but ask, does our figure matter that much for acting? I gave her a look. That depends on the role you want. If you're happy being an extra, then no. But if you want to be the female lead in a romance, then yes, looks and figure are everything. I was disappointed. The gap between their headshots and reality was significant. Either their faces weren't quite right, or their figures weren't up to par. These short-form dramas were cheap productions with laughably low pay, so no established actor would touch them. That meant the newcomers had to carry the show with their looks. If they weren't attractive enough for me, a male viewer, to find appealing, how could we expect the audience to be satisfied? The leads had to be gorgeous. After I had assessed everyone, I finally explained my purpose. I'm planning to produce a few short-form web dramas. We're not talking about traditional, hour-long episodes, but short, viral-style content for platforms like TikTok. I was in the middle of my pitch when another message from Chloe came through. I asked you to get me a coffee. Did you go to another country to get it? I quickly replied, stuck in traffic. Give me another half hour. I locked my phone and continued with my presentation. The shooting schedule for each series is about 7 to 12 days. The pay ranges from a few hundred to several $1,000s a day, depending on the role. Anyone who's interested in getting some on-camera experience can sign up with the director. With Chloe's threat hanging over me, I wrapped things up quickly and left. By the time I got to her office building, the delivery guy was already waiting outside. I tipped him, grabbed the coffee, and rushed upstairs. The moment I pushed open her office door, Chloe's icy gaze shot towards me. I ignored it, walked over, and handed her the coffee with an apologetic smile. So sorry to have kept you waiting, my dear. My forehead was beaded with sweat, and I was slightly out of breath, as if I'd run all the way up. Chloe glanced at the coffee on her desk. You didn't poison it, did you? The next second, I picked it up and took a sip, my smile still fixed on my face, though it didn't quite reach my eyes. There, satisfied, my dear wife. Chloe's expression grew even colder as she looked from me to the coffee I had just sipped from. I rounded the desk and moved towards her, putting on a fawning expression. Is there anything else I can do for you, my love? Kisses? Hugs? Chloe immediately rolled her chair backward, putting distance between us as she stared at me coldly. I watched her treat me like I was some kind of monster, and before I could even savor the victory, she spoke again. I've invited friends over for dinner tonight. Go home and prepare it. I gritted my teeth, forcing my anger down and keeping the servile smile plastered on my face. Of course, my dear. How many friends? And should I prepare Chinese or Western food? Chloe waved her hand dismissively. 5 or 6 of them. You figure it out. I nodded. Yes, of course. I'll go home and start preparing right away. The moment I turned my back, the smile vanished from my face. This woman was relentless. I couldn't let her spend all her time tormenting me. I had to create a distraction, something to make her focus her attention on her beloved male lead. After I left, Chloe casually picked up the coffee and took a sip. A moment later, she realized it was the same cup I had drunk from. Her expression turned stormy, and she immediately pushed the cup to the far side of her desk, not touching it again. That evening, when Chloe got home, she was greeted by the sound of upbeat music coming from the living room. I was nowhere in sight, but the delicious aroma of food wafted from the kitchen. She walked to the kitchen doorway and saw two beautiful women she didn't recognize, cooking. One of them was feeding me a bite of a freshly prepared dish. "Delicious," I exclaimed. "You're so beautiful and have such a great figure. You don't look like a chef at all. I thought I'd been scammed, but you've clearly got real talent." The woman smiled. "Mr. Grant, what do you think I do for a living?" I smiled back. "With your looks, it would be a crime if you weren't a model." As we were chatting, I felt a prickling, cold sensation on the back of my neck. I turned around and saw Chloe standing there, her face so icy she looked like I owed her $1 billion. The moment I walked over, Chloe sneered at me. "I told you to cook dinner and you bring home 2 women? You really know how to enjoy yourself. Should I call a few more for you?" Just as she reached for her phone, I grabbed her hand. "What are you talking about? My cooking is terrible. I was afraid I'd embarrass you in front of your friends, so I hired a pair of professional chefs. I'm not an idiot. If I were really trying to cheat, why would I bring them to our house?" Just then, the doorbell rang. Chloe shot me a warning look and pulled her hand away as I went to open the door. At the same time, her phone rang. She pulled it out and I glanced over. It was Liam. I couldn't help but strain to listen. It turned out Liam had gotten home to find a local delivery waiting for him, a bouquet of flowers and a package. When he opened it, he found a collar and a card that read, "My dearest Liam, I love you. I dream of you every night. I want to see you so badly. This is a gift I chose especially for you. I know you'll look so charming wearing it." Liam was instantly creeped out. He felt like he was being watched, and it made his skin crawl. When he called Chloe, his voice was trembling. "Chloe, can you come over? I think I have a problem." Chloe answered the phone, a puzzled look on her face. "What's wrong?" "I think I have a stalker." Hearing those words, I almost burst out laughing. I had to bite my lip to keep it in. Seeing Chloe hang up, I hurried to help bring the food to the table. This was the first time in their 2-year marriage that Chloe had ever invited friends over. That, combined with our recent public display of affection, naturally led her friends to believe we had finally worked things out. The moment they walked in, they started showering her with gifts. Olivia pressed a gift card for a $5,000 night hotel suite into Chloe's hand. "Just a little something to show I care. Don't get too emotional." Isabella held up a mysterious gift bag. "A few things my friends have tried and recommended." Chloe looked at their gifts, each one more ridiculous than the last, and said with a stony face, "I have to step out for a bit. I was just bringing out another dish when I heard she was leaving." I immediately put on my most understanding and supportive face. "If you have something to do, you should go. I'll take good care of your friends." I placed the dish in Olivia's empty hands and deftly took the gift bag from her. "Go on, don't let us keep you." Chloe looked at how eager I was to get rid of her, then glanced at the room full of women and grabbed my wrist. "You're coming with me." Her friends were stunned. She was taking Ethan with her to run an errand? Were they really that inseparable now? I frowned at her. "You have business to attend to. It's not right for me to tag along. Besides, we have guests. As the host, I can't just abandon them." I had to refuse. I had spent my own time and money to create this fake stalker, all to push Chloe and Liam closer together, to make her feel protective of him. If I went along, how were they supposed to have their romantic bonding moment? Chloe tossed a "make yourselves at home" over her shoulder to her friends and dragged me out the door. So fast I didn't even have time to put down the gift bag. It wasn't until I was shoved into the car that I realized it was full of lingerie and other adult items. Even I, with my thick skin, couldn't help but blush. I immediately shoved the bag at her. She could definitely use this stuff tonight, which was all the more reason for me not to go with her. I looked at Chloe and said calmly, "If we both leave, what if they trash the house? I'll stay and play host. You go take care of your business." Chloe gave me a look that said she saw right through me, tossed the bag into the back seat, and started the car. My voice was laced with exasperation. I don't even have my phone, but it was like she couldn't hear me. Soon, we were pulling up to Liam's apartment building. I had planned on waiting in the car while she handled it, but she took the keys with her when she got out. I watched her disappear inside without a backward glance, but my curiosity got the better of me. I followed her and peeked from the hallway. Liam was pacing anxiously inside. When he saw Chloe, he rushed to her like she was his savior, showing her the card and explaining what had happened. He said that for a while now, packages had been arriving addressed only to him with no sender information. Chloe checked the security footage, then made a call, asking someone to trace the delivery driver's license plate. She hung up and turned to Liam. "Until we figure this out, you shouldn't stay here. I watched them having this dry, lifeless conversation with zero physical contact, and I felt my frustration mounting. Can you two just stop holding back already? You make the Stoics of ancient Greece look impulsive. I had been idly fiddling with a potted plant in the hallway, just tracing its leaves. But seeing my plan have absolutely no effect was making me so anxious that by the time I snapped out of it, I had ripped the entire plant out by its roots. To Liam, who happened to walk out just then, it looked like I had gotten the wrong idea and was now furious. He flinched and immediately started to explain. Ethan, it's not what you think between Chloe and me. Seeing his reaction, I quickly put the mangled plant down and plastered on an embarrassed, harmless smile, explaining even faster than he could. Oh, sorry. I was just bored waiting and I guess I got a little carried away. I'll buy you a new one tomorrow. Chloe gave me an unreadable look. Liam just waved his hands frantically. No, it's fine. It's just a plant. Not wanting to be a third wheel, I sped up and walked ahead of them. Liam was still completely confused. Ms. Sterling, I think Ethan misunderstood. Is he angry? Chloe watched my retreating figure and shook her head. Don't worry about him. I hurried back to the car and got in the back seat, leaving the front passenger seat for Liam. He thought it would be inappropriate and started to get in the back with me, but I waved him off. He sat uneasily in the front, looking like he wanted to explain something, but when he saw me close my eyes, feigning sleep, he gave up. He glanced nervously at Chloe and saw her shoot me a look in the rearview mirror. Chloe started the car and glanced at Liam. Have you eaten? Liam shook his head. Not yet. After that brief exchange, the car fell into an awkward silence. I peeked at them several times, but there was no further interaction. I wished I could turn invisible and physically push their heads together for a kiss. Meanwhile, back at the house, Olivia was gossiping with the others. So, what do you guys think? Chloe ditches us for some errand and takes Ethan with her? What's that about? Isabella laughed. What do you think it means? She's afraid you're going to steal her husband. Sophia waved her hand dismissively. I don't think they're coming back tonight. Maybe we should just go. Olivia pouted. I already gave her a gift. Why should we leave? I'm not leaving. In fact, I'm going to eat everything in this house. Olivia had just pulled the most expensive bottle of dessert wine from the wine cabinet and was about to open it in celebration when I stormed back in, a thunderous look on my face. I was followed closely by Chloe and Liam. The three friends were completely baffled. I downed a large glass of water, trying to quell the fire of my frustration. I had even gone to the trouble of using cash from my own account to create the fake stalker, just so Chloe couldn't trace it. And after all that effort, those two had made zero progress. I finished my water, still fuming. Then I saw the open bottle of wine, and an idea struck me, a little alcohol-fueled chaos. Liam's first instinct in a crisis was to call Chloe, and the moment he called, she had dropped everything, including her friends, to rush to his side. If that wasn't mutual affection, what was? The only reason she wouldn't divorce me was to torture me. That woman's thirst for revenge was just too strong. For the sake of my future single life, I put on a wide smile and turned to Olivia and the others. You've already started? Great. I'll go grab a couple more bottles. No one's going home sober tonight. The three of them stared, baffled, as I cheerfully went to the wine cabinet. Olivia looked completely confused. Did Chloe just take her husband to go pick up her love rival? Sophia smirked. Maybe she's decided she wants to have her cake and eat it too. By the time Chloe and Liam came to the table, I had returned with 2 more bottles of dessert wine. I took a seat at the far end, leaving 2 empty chairs side by side for them. Chloe sat down, and Liam took the seat next to her, greeting her friends a little awkwardly. Olivia said politely, "We've heard so much about you, Mr. Carter. It's an honor to finally meet you." I immediately jumped in. Well then, you should at least offer him a toast. Chloe shot me a look, her expression unreadable. Everyone else turned to stare at me too. I looked back at them with an expression of pure innocence. Did I say something wrong? Shouldn't she toast him? Olivia smiled and raised her glass. To the famous Mr. Carter. It was Liam's first time meeting Chloe's friends, so he couldn't refuse. He politely touched his glass to hers and took a sip. I immediately grabbed the bottle and jumped up with an enthusiastic smile to refill his glass. Liam quickly waved his hand. Ethan, no, it's fine. I can get it myself. I just smiled and topped off his glass. You're Chloe's honored guest. I couldn't possibly let you serve yourself. Chloe toyed with her wine glass, giving me a cool, unreadable glance. Her friends were completely baffled but trying their best to follow along. After pouring the wine, I turned to Isabella, who was sitting next to Olivia. Aren't you going to toast our famous guest? Isabella just smirked, raised her glass and said, I would never be so rude. As Isabella went to toast Liam, Chloe shot her a cold look. If you want a drink, drink it yourself. Then she turned to Liam. You don't have to indulge them. It's fine, Liam said, raising his glass anyway. I can drink. Sophia immediately followed suit, raising her glass as well. I'll toast the big star too. We wouldn't want to be rude, would we? And so, Liam ended up downing several glasses in a row. I returned to my seat and encouraged everyone to eat, my mind already scheming how to get Chloe to drink. Before I could come up with a plan, Chloe herself spoke, looking coldly at her three friends. Is it polite to only toast him and not your host? The implication was that they should toast me next, a clear attempt to get back at them on Liam's behalf. Isabella just laughed, swirling the wine in her glass. He's the guest of honor, so it's only right we toast him first. You're the one who invited us, but you haven't toasted us. Are you saying we should toast the host before the host toasts us? Who's being rude here? I wanted to give her a high five. I glanced over at Liam. His expression had soured. He was clearly jealous. I immediately stepped in to defuse the tension, refilling Liam's glass and then my own. Come on, my wife and I would like to propose a toast to everyone. Chloe shot me a cold look, and I gave her a meaningful glance back. When she didn't move, I squeezed her leg under the table. Chloe's face darkened instantly, but she coldly picked up her glass. Even though she could hold her liquor, once I saw her drink, I stopped paying attention to the social games and focused on eating. I made sure to avoid the crab and lobster, anything that required extra work to eat, so she wouldn't have an excuse to order me around. Chloe watched me eat with obvious displeasure, shooting me looks that could kill from across the table. The next time she glared at me, I pretended to misunderstand. You want some? I asked, before picking up a piece of braised pork and stuffing it right into her mouth. The next second, I saw the expression on the face of the woman who was so repulsed by my touch turn even fouler. I can't even begin to describe how satisfying it was. I glanced over at Liam and saw him down another glass of wine. After dinner, Olivia and the others wanted to stay for karaoke, but Chloe unceremoniously kicked them out. I wanted to escape too. I glanced at my phone and made an excuse. My mom just texted, says there's an emergency at home. I should call and see what's going on. I pretended to be on the phone as I headed for the door, leaving the living room to Chloe and Liam. But before I could make my escape, I heard Chloe's cold warning. You have 5 minutes. If I don't see you in 5 minutes, this will be the last good day you ever have. I gritted my teeth in frustration. Why wasn't she paying attention to her man? Why was she so obsessed with me? Beside her, Liam was looking at her with a dizzy expression, clearly drunk. Chloe glanced at her watch, then looked at Liam. I'll call your assistant to come get you. She pulled out her phone, but as she was looking for the number, Liam suddenly stood up and knocked the phone from her hand. Chloe, can I stay here? He asked. Chloe put some distance between them, her voice cold. Then I'll have my assistant stay with you. Liam shook his head. I don't want her. I want you. Chloe's elegant brows furrowed even more deeply. Liam reached out and grabbed the fabric of her dress at her waist. Have you started to fall for Ethan? If you fall for him, what am I supposed to do? I've waited for you for so many years. Outside, I took a call from the director of the talent agency. He told me that out of the 10 actors I'd seen, only 3 had signed up for the project. 2 men and 1 woman. I was a little surprised. Were newcomers really this picky? It didn't matter. I had approached them first because they were our own talent, and I wanted to give them the first shot at a breakout role. I got the contact information for the 3 who were interested and turned back to peek inside. I saw that the 2 of them were now in close physical contact. At that distance, with Liam still clutching her dress, what else could they be doing besides kissing? Was he about to carry her to the bedroom? Alcohol really was a wonderful thing. A smile spread across my face. It was just a shame I was too far away to hear anything. I was watching with great interest when Chloe suddenly whipped her head around and looked right at me, startling me. Have you had your fill of watching? Then get over here. I was speechless. Did she have eyes in the back of her head? What could she possibly want me for? I walked over reluctantly. Chloe's face was blank. The phone. I gritted my teeth, forced a smile, and picked up her phone from the floor. The next second, she shoved the drunken Liam into my arms. Ethan Grant, he's sleeping with you tonight. Her words hit me like a bolt of lightning. You want him to sleep with me? Aren't you afraid I'll murder him in his sleep? Chloe turned and walked upstairs without a backward glance. If he dies, you'll die with him. I gritted my teeth as I watched her go. Why don't you let him sleep with you? That way, all 3 of us can live to see another day. Only then did she stop and turn to look back at me, her eyes sharp enough to tear me to shreds. I was genuinely confused for a second. I was being so generous, letting them sleep together. Shouldn't she be happy? Chloe slammed her bedroom door shut. I had no choice but to haul Liam back to my own room. He clung to me, not letting go, clearly mistaking me for Chloe. Chloe, he murmured, I love you. I recorded his drunken confession and sent it to Chloe, hoping to add more fuel to their romantic fire. It backfired spectacularly. Her reply was instant. Do you have that much free time? Have you written today's Facebook essay yet? I see you're quite good at complimenting women. 500 words on that topic should be no problem for you. I gritted my teeth and copied a template for praising a woman's beauty from some romance novel, then added some extra cringy lines about craving her body just to disgust her. Your face is a masterpiece sculpted by angels, so perfect it makes the heavens weep with jealousy. The Pacific Ocean is just a puddle compared to the drool I've shed for you. Can you please stop stealing my very soul? I sent the message and angrily shut off my phone, only to see Liam's fair, delicate face leaning in towards mine. I glanced at him and had to admit, he really was a star for a reason. His face was prettier than most women's, his skin so flawless and dewy it looked unreal. Liam murmured, his eyes hazy as he looked at me. I've loved you since the first moment I saw you. I really, really love you. With that, he puckered his lips and leaned in for a kiss. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Liam, what are you doing? Just as I was trying to fend him off, the door to Chloe's room opened, and she stepped out onto the landing. Ethan, what did you just? She froze mid-sentence, staring down at us. I was out the door first thing the next morning. There was still a year before the all-out business war between Sterling Industries and Grant Corporation described in the novel. In that time, I had to make our company strong enough to withstand the attack. I decided to start with the media division, and my first move would be to sign the popular young actress, Maya Reed. In a private room at an elegant tea house, I reviewed the contract proposal for Maya Reed that the agency director had given me. I remembered her story from the novel. She was a former child star, a constant presence on the big screen from a young age. But behind that sunny, smiling facade was a pair of parasitic parents. They had crushed her dreams, turning her into a money-making machine with no regard for her feelings, which led to a long battle with depression. The final straw was when they forced her to entertain a powerful industry mogul, after which she took her own life. Reading her story, I felt like she was a reflection of my own past life, and I had cried for her. I had called and arranged a meeting with her mother for that morning. An hour later, Maya's mother, Diana Reed, finally arrived. When Diana Reed saw it was me, a look of instant disdain crossed her face. She was clearly thinking, why is it the Grant family's useless, good-for-nothing heir who bought his way into a marriage? Where is Director Miller? She asked. I gave her a cold look. Thinking of everything she had put her daughter through, I didn't bother with pleasantries and tossed the contract on the table in front of her. Director Miller was busy. He sent me to talk to you. Diana Reed let out a short, derisive laugh. You? What do you know about this business? Despite her words, she picked up the contract. Her daughter's latest movie was poised to be a huge hit, and this was the perfect time to leverage that into a more lucrative deal. When she saw it wasn't a script offer but an exclusive agency contract, she tossed it back on the table and looked at me like I was an idiot. Mr. Grant, did you bring the wrong file? Director Miller said on the phone that you had a new project for us. I leaned back on the sofa and looked at her calmly. Let me be frank. We're not here to offer a role. We want to sign Maya. Diana immediately grabbed her purse and stood up. Then I'm afraid you're going to be disappointed. I calmly dropped the bomb. Your daughter has severe clinical depression. I continued in a slow, deliberate tone. Hollywood is full of actresses. Your daughter is just starting to make a name for herself. If this little secret were to get out, do you think any studio would be willing to risk insuring her for a major film? Diana's face went white. She turned to stare at me. How do you know that? I rested my arm on the back of the sofa and looked at her coolly. I know because I've seen how her story ends. And I know a lot more than that. For example, I know that you and your husband are gambling addicts, and whenever you're out of money, you force your daughter to take jobs, even to entertain clients, with no regard for her mental health. If all of that were to leak online, what do you think her adoring fans would do? That 1,000-word suicide note with its itemized list of abuses was now my leverage against her. I watched her calmly as her composure crumbled, her legs seeming to give way beneath her. Did Maya tell you this? If she were willing to tell anyone, I snorted. Do you think she would have waited this long? A dark anger rose in me, as if I was seeing that desperate girl before her death all over again. I gritted my teeth. There are no secrets that stay secret forever. I just wanted to sign her, so I did my homework. She still thinks of you as her mother. She doesn't want you to become a public pariah. Even her self-harm, it's all hidden on her thighs where no one can see. So think carefully. Do you want to be a social outcast and have your daughter blacklisted from the industry? Or do you want to keep making money off her? With that, I stood up. I took 2 steps toward the door, then stopped and turned back, a sarcastic smile on my face. I'm just curious. How could you watch her suffer so much and still have the heart to keep exploiting her? When you carried her for 9 months, was it out of love, or were you just incubating a future cash machine? I had wanted to ask my own parents the same question, but I never got the chance. Diana just kept her head down, silent. I thought of all the years I had been beaten, berated, and exploited. As I walked out of the room, my own emotions overwhelmed me, and my eyes grew red. I leaned against the wall in the hallway, tilting my head back, trying to compose myself. At that moment, Chloe emerged from a nearby private room, having just finished a meeting. She saw me leaning there, alone, looking utterly dejected. The person with her noticed her pause and asked, "Is something wrong, Miss Sterling?" Chloe composed herself, said a few quiet words to her associate, but when she turned to look at me again, I was gone. Chloe had security pull the surveillance footage. Back at her office, she called in her assistant. "Find out what Ethan Grant and Diana Reed talked about today." Half an hour later, the assistant called back. Mr. Grant was there to discuss signing Maya Reed to an exclusive contract. Hearing this, Chloe was lost in thought. When had Ethan started getting involved in Grant Corporation's business? She remembered the incident with the car accident and the actress. So, was he upset because he had failed to sign her? Chloe tossed her phone aside. "Sign Maya Reed to our company," she told her assistant. The assistant nodded. "Yes, Ms. Sterling. I'll get right on it." Just then, Chloe's phone buzzed with new notifications. She picked it up and looked. "Your account has been charged $18,000. Your account has been charged $5,500. Chloe sneered. "Spending my money while pining over another woman." Her finger traced the cold glass of the screen, a vicious glint in her eye. She had never considered me her equal, but this feeling of losing control, coupled with my willingness to spend a fortune on another woman, deeply wounded her pride as someone who had always gotten her way. "If he wants to play, then let's play for higher stakes." Chloe called her assistant, her voice devoid of any warmth. "I don't care what it takes. Outbid them, promise her the world, just get Maya Reed's contract signed with us. Also, activate the contingency plan. Have our partners squeeze the funding on the grant's new projects. I want to see how he plans to be a playboy when he's broke." She hung up and leaned back in her chair, a cruel smile playing on her lips. She would make me understand that everything I had, the woman I wanted to champion, the career I wanted to build, was all in the palm of her hand. She could crush it all whenever she pleased. However, the panic Chloe anticipated never came. A few days later, a short-form web drama called The Heiress's Rebirth went viral across all platforms. The plot was lightning fast, full of twists and satisfying moments of revenge. The lead actress was an unknown newcomer signed to Grant Corporation. Made on a budget of a few $100,000, the series generated over $10 million in revenue in a single week, completely disrupting the market. In the Grant Corporation boardroom, Ava stared at the staggering numbers on the financial report, her eyes wide with a mixture of disbelief and admiration. She turned to me, calm and composed at her side. "Ethan, I never imagined this web drama project of yours could be this successful." I just smiled and pushed a file across the table to her. "This is just the beginning. Ava, our cash flow is back. Now we can go after the big fish." That big fish, of course, was Maya Reed. Chloe's attempt to poach her came quickly. Just as I'd predicted, Diana Reed called, evasively mentioning a better offer and trying to back out of our verbal agreement. I didn't argue with her. Instead, I used the contact information I had to reach out to Maya directly. We met at a quiet cafe. She wore a mask and a hat, looking nervous. I didn't offer her a massive, multi-million-dollar contract like Chloe's team undoubtedly had. I simply placed a detailed career plan and a comprehensive psychological rehabilitation program on the table in front of her. "Chloe can give you money, but she can't give you a new life," I said, looking her directly in the eye. "I know what you're going through, and I know your talent shouldn't be wasted. Work with me. I won't just make you a top-tier actress. I'll help you become a free and happy Maya Reed. We'll put together the best legal team to help you break free from the shackles of your family." Maya's body trembled slightly. She looked at me, the wariness and confusion in her eyes slowly being replaced by a glimmer of hope. After a long moment, she took off her mask and gave me a genuine smile. "Mr. Grant," she said, "I believe you." The next day, Maya Reed's official account announced that she had signed exclusively with Starlight Studios, a new division of Grant Corporation. The news was a resounding slap in the face to Chloe. Not only had she failed to poach Maya, but she had inadvertently become a stepping stone on my path to success. But then the real storm hit. The financial attack Chloe had planned was officially launched. News that Grant Corporation was pursuing several large-scale projects simultaneously had already spread, and to outsiders it looked like a reckless and risky expansion. Cutting off our funding at this critical moment was like pulling the rug out from under us. The Grant Corporation shareholders were in a panic. Chloe, meanwhile, calmly waited for our family to come begging for mercy. But at the emergency board meeting, Ava and I were perfectly composed. "Esteemed members of the board, there is no need to panic," I said, turning on the projector. It displayed the clear profit curve of our web drama division and our substantial cash reserves. "We never intended to launch all those projects at once. That was just a smokescreen," Ava continued, her voice clear and strong. "While we had Sterling Industries' attention focused on our supposed expansion, we used the profits from the web dramas to quietly complete the acquisition of CoreSource Technologies. And that company happens to hold the core patents for Sterling's most important new energy project this year." The room erupted. Chloe's trap hadn't just failed to crush us. We had used it as cover to deliver a fatal blow. The lifeline of her flagship project was now firmly in our grasp. When the news reached Chloe, she crushed the glass she was holding, not even noticing the blood that trickled from her fingers. She had lost. In the world of business, she had been utterly and completely defeated. Humiliated and enraged, she finally played her last card. My phone lit up with the video files she had sent, the evidence of the original Ethan's crimes that could ruin me. The accompanying text was cold and vicious. "Ethan Grant, terminate the acquisition of CoreSource, transfer Maya Reed's contract to me, and then come crawling back to apologize. Otherwise, these videos will be on everyone's phone by tomorrow morning." I looked at the message, my heart completely calm. I had been waiting for this day. I arranged to meet Chloe in her office. She assumed I was there to surrender, and her face wore the arrogant smirk of a victor. "Have you made your decision?" she asked. I didn't answer, merely gesturing to Ava, who was standing behind me. Ava placed a folder on the desk and slid it in front of Chloe. "Ms. Sterling, before you decide to burn everything to the ground, you might want to look at these." Chloe opened the folder, confused, and her face instantly went white. Inside were detailed depositions from the other individuals involved in the incidents from the videos. They all testified that the original Ethan's mental state at the time was extremely unstable, and that he had been maliciously provoked. More importantly, the folder also contained a professional analysis from a top psychiatrist, diagnosing the original Ethan with paranoid behaviors resulting from long-term psychological and emotional abuse. Ava's voice was calm and sharp. "This evidence is sufficient to prove that Ethan's actions were pathological in nature, which would earn him maximum legal sympathy. But you, Ms. Sterling, knowing his unstable mental state, subjected him to prolonged emotional abuse, held these videos for 2 years, and are now using them for commercial extortion. Your actions constitute a serious felony. If we go to the police, who do you think will be the first to fall?" Chloe swayed on her feet. She stared at me in disbelief. The man who had once been her obedient puppet, completely at her mercy, had become this strange and terrifying figure who was always one step ahead of her. Her blackmail attempt had become a joke. Just as she was reeling from the shock, her phone rang. It was Liam. He had seen the news about the CoreSource acquisition and had heard whispers in the industry about Chloe's tactics. His voice on the phone was filled with a disappointment and distance she had never heard before. "Chloe, I always thought you were just proud, but I never thought, I think it's best if we just go back to being friends." The halo around her first love shattered completely. Chloe had lost all her leverage. She looked at me, and for the first time, her eyes showed a flicker of regret and vulnerability. "Ethan," she whispered, can we go back to how things were?" I shook my head, my gaze calm and steady. "Chloe, you don't miss me. You miss the shadow you could control. The only thing left between us is this divorce agreement." A month later, Grant Corporation held a grand gala to celebrate its successful IPO. As the company's new chief strategy officer, I stood in the spotlight, giving a speech. After thanking my parents and my team, my gaze finally settled on Ava, who was watching me from the audience with a smile. "Finally, there's one more person I need to thank." I stepped down from the stage and, under the watchful eyes of everyone in the room, walked directly to her and took her hand. When I was at my lowest point, she believed in me without question. When I was drawing up the blueprints for our future, she was the one who filled in all the details. She is my most trusted partner, and the person I want to protect most in this world. "Ava, thank you." Ava's eyes welled with tears. Under the spotlights, they shone brighter than any star. I said nothing more. I simply lowered my head and, Amidst a flurry of camera flashes and the gasps and cheers of the guests, I gently but firmly kissed her. Across the city, in a vast, cold, and empty office, Chloe watched the scene unfold on a live stream on her phone. As our lips met, she could almost hear the sound of her own heart breaking. She silently turned off the screen, plunging herself into darkness. A single, silent tear traced a path down her cheek, reflecting the glittering lights of the city below, a city where not a single light now shone for her.